that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the very famous Tom Fennell.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are recording on the 16th of February, and we're going to be talking about news from February 9th until February 15th. We're dealing with energy and climate change related news. I get up every day I got up a little late today at about 4:30.
Slug of bed.
Slug of bed. I was up too late last night. I went to bed at about 10. And 4:30 is late for me. But I get up and I look through the news on the internet and find everything that I think is interesting relating to climate change and energy. And for each article, I put together about a 50-word synopsis with a link to the article. I package 10 to 15 of these together every day and put them up on a blog, which is called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. And we will try to mention what date these articles come from. If you want to read them, you can go to the blog and click on the appropriate date or scroll down for the article and find it. So you can read the articles yourselves and get something that's a little more in depth than the.
Well, some of these articles are really in depth.
Yeah, they are.
We couldn't talk about them here. There's not enough time.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of these articles alone could take up the whole show.
Yes.
So
our first one could take up the whole show.
I try if I can to notify the people.
Yeah.
To look up a good one if they're interested in the article, because some of them really got a lot of stuff in them.
Some of them have a lot, and this first one that we're going to deal with happens to be one of those. This is on February 9th. It's from Hellenic Shipping News Worldwide. Amazing amount of stuff comes from that site.
Well, there was one that came up on my TV that it was just a sentence. It said, declining capabilities of new coal plants were going to zero before the Clean Power Plan. Yeah. And nothing was attached to that.
Oh, really? So you didn't see the graph?
No.
Okay, well, the graph is there for everybody to see, and you can see it yourself. There it is. Tom will have it there in a second.
Yeah.
There it is. Wow.
Where is it?
Oh, there it is. And here it is. Basically, this is the new coal capacity being installed in the United States, and it went to...
Looks impressive, doesn't it?
Well, we're used to graphs that's, the bottom of the graph is 3 billion, or something like that. And so a graph like this could mean a decline of 1% with that shape in a graph like that, but this actually does go to zero. And it is the amount of capacity in megawatt hours that are being put on year by year. And in 2010, there was about 6,500 megawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 6 or 7 nuclear power plants going on that were coal powered. But it went down, and it went down, and it went down faster, and it went down faster again, and it hit almost zero in 2014, zero in 2015. The Clean Power Plan was announced in 2015.
So the Clean Power Plan didn't have anything
to do with this. And
blaming it,
people in the coal industry had been talking about Obama's war on coal, but you know what? It wasn't Obama who was doing this. It was Rex Tillerson and David and Charles Koch, I think, because they were the guys, and David and Charles Koch didn't want to do it, but they had, basically renewables had something to do with it, but it was natural gas. Mm-hmm. And it was the oil and gas companies that were doing and renewables had a lot to do with it, but
coal is, no matter how you look at it, it's old technology.
Yeah, sort of.
It's the one fuel that after you burn it, you still have to do something with it.
Yes. Oh, the one combustible fuel.
The one combustible, yeah. I mean, oil, you burn it, it goes into the atmosphere. Coal, you burn it, you're left with a whole bunch of
Ash.
Clinkers,
Yeah.
ash,
Yeah.
cinders.
Yeah.
Then they used to make cinder blocks out of them, but they
Yeah.
don't make cinder blocks out of cinders anymore. Although I read
They still
somewhere
could.
recently they're going to start again.
Yes. There was a very interesting thing that came up in the news a couple of months ago, and I think we might actually have reported it, where a young woman, had figured out that if you took a particular mix of bacteria and you poured them into a mold, a rectangular mold.
We did talk about this.
Okay,
this
that was
is ringing
full
a
of
bell.
yeah, and it could be full of cinders, or it could be full of sand, or it could be
Yeah.
full of things like that. The bacteria in a liquid that was full of nutrient for the bacteria, they would produce calcium carbonate and glue the whole thing together in such a way that it could be used as bricks for
As
building.
bricks, yeah. And it's a good way of getting rid of some of the carbon.
Yes, it is.
Matter of fact, it might wind up being the best way, turning
Yes,
it into calcium
absolutely.
carbonate.
Anyway, this particular article, all the king's men cannot put king coal together
I'm
again.
supposed to say that.
I thought you already said it. You want to read it? Go ahead.
You just said it.
Oh, okay. Even before the new administration took over, it had been widely argued that coal plants would continue shutting down, irrespective of whether the Clean Power Plan was implemented. Old coal plants are retiring and new ones are not being installed. Well, actually, there are 3 coal burning plants under construction in the United States.
I bet you they'll be closed before they're open.
There was a new plant in Belgium. We reported this.
Yeah,
New
they closed-
plant. It was 18 months old, and they
Yeah,
closed it because it wasn't making money.
It was losing money.
It was losing
Yeah.
money.
Now this is one of those articles, by the way,
Yeah,
that there's a lot of meat
worth
in.
reading, yeah.
This is well worth reading. If you love graphs,
Yeah.
this is the article. There must be 50 graphs in there.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was-
know.
Okay, should we
There's
go on?
one graph in there I do remember seeing it. Though.
Okay,
It was a graph predicting the new coal plants being built.
yeah.
And it went out to 2035. There wasn't any. All the way out to 2035.
Well, yeah. They have to do something about carbon sequestration, and I don't think they can do it because it's a bigger problem than that.
Well, there's a quick takeaway from here.
Okay,
Coal is losing the battle for the electricity future in the U.S. due to 3 main factors. 1, low natural gas prices stemming from massive natural gas shale resources.
Yes.
We're well aware of that.
Yes.
2, lower prices of renewable energy due to
Yes.
government subsidies and technological innovation.
Which are
and we're
going to
seeing
continue,
that.
yeah.
The prices of solar and wind are coming down daily.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And third one is EPA regulations aimed at negative environmental externalities associated with coal that raise the price of coal-fired power.
Yes, and if anybody happens to think that that's trivial, go to the Vermont Fish and Game people online and see. Look to see how many fish you can take from which body of water, because all of the bodies of water in Vermont, as clean as the state is, all of the water is polluted, and
It's not just Vermont, too.
Yeah, it's
You
not.
used to
It's
live
everybody.
You used to live in Ashwellet, right?
yes,
Well, there's a place by the Ashwellet River which has a parking area ostensibly built there so people can fish. There's a big sign there.
don't
And
eat
it
fish.
basically says don't eat the fish in this water.
Yeah.
And it labels the species. You know?
Yes. Well, the Vermont Fish and Game have charts so that depending on who you are, you can figure out how many fish of what species you can take from, and the bottom line on it is if you happen to catch a record trout in Lake Champlain, don't eat it because it's poisonous.
Yeah.
And that is mostly coal. Okay, we should get going because we just spent about 9 minutes on that one item.
Well, let's hit the next one then.
Clean Technica.
Seattle refuses to do business with Wells Fargo.
This is crazy. I
in
mean, it's not
Dakota
crazy. but-
Access
Whoa.
protest.
There's
There's a local connection here, by the way, but you keep talking.
Okay. On February 7th, the Seattle City Council voted unanimously to stop doing business with Wells Fargo Bank. This is because Wells Fargo has investments in companies behind the Dakota Access Pipeline project. Seattle currently does about $3 billion a year in business with Wells Fargo. This hurts.
Oh, yeah.
The pipeline has
they're gonna
17
notice that.
investors. They're going to notice. And it tells you how vulnerable the fossil fuels industry is, the Republican Party is, the Trump administration is. All you've got to do, everybody's income, including Congress,
Yeah.
the controlling party in Congress, depends on fossil fuels. If you stop buying their products, which you can do,
Yeah.
saving money in the process,
Yeah.
being more comfortable in the process, being happier in the process, having less medical problems in the process. If you stop doing business with them, they don't have any choices. They go under.
Yeah.
And the
By the way,
Congress
I
has
have
to
to
pack its
correct this
bags and go
article.
home. Yes, go ahead.
The pipeline has 17 investors.
Yeah.
Now it's 16.
Who pulled out?
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo pulled out.
Seattle.
Seattle pulled. Well, Seattle was just doing business with Wells Fargo.
Well,
Wells
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
We
so
probably have to go on.
well, I mentioned a real quick connection here.
Okay.
We got our own protest happening here in
Oh,
town
yes.
and in Bellows Falls
Yes.
against the TD Bank
Yes.
for exactly the same thing.
Yes.
And the goal, of course, is to get the state of Vermont to pull its accounts out of TD Bank.
Yes.
What's his name? Stevenson. I can't think of his first name.
I don't know.
He's promoting this anyhow. We ought to get him on the show one of these days.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Okay. So we have our next item coming up, and this is from Your Active.
I'm not active though.
What can I say? It has a
Almost
picture.
90% of new energy in Europe came from renewable sources in 2016.
Yeah, we have a picture on this one, by the way.
will
Renewable
get it. I'll
energy
get it
made
up.
up nearly 9/10 of new power added to Europe's electric grids last year in a sign of the continent's rapid shift away from fossil fuels. Euractiv's media partner, The Guardian, reports of the 24.5 gigawatts of new capacity built across the EU in 2016, 21.1 gigawatts, 86%, was from wind, solar, biomass, and hydro.
And it's happening all over Europe.
Yeah, it is. And by the way, the Russians don't like this very much.
Well, yeah, they're peddling oil and gas. They have a lot of it.
65% of their foreign trade
Is what?
income is
Oil
for
and gas.
fossil fuels. Yeah, and they just don't like it. And a lot of their foreign trade is nuclear power, and all of that stuff is threatened because everybody's pulling away from fossil fuels, except, it happens that the United States has an administration that is helping out the Russian administration make sure that fossil fuels.
Well, in the long run,
Remain.
economics are going to win out.
Yeah, in the long run, Vladimir Putin is not going to turn out to be a friend of Donald Trump very long, I don't think. We are up to Friday, February 10th, unless you've got more.
No, this
on
is a
that.
good one. We're working on
Okay.
Friday the 10th. North Carolina wind farm goes live, despite legislators' claims it's a national security
This is
threat.
so crazy.
They'll strike it. They'll stop at nothing. will
Yeah,
they?
this is from
So let me get this
CIO.
picture up
Yeah,
here,
let's do
'cause
that.
we've got a nice picture
Nice
of it.
picture. CIO. This reminds me of where the thing that we visited in Searsburg.
Oh yeah.
You know, the first wind farm in North Carolina is now 100% operational, even though the state's top politicians wanted President Donald Trump to nix the $400 million project because they said it was a national security threat. Avangrid Renewables today announced the wind farm is now generating power enough to provide for 61,000 homes.
Well, I'll explain why they think it's a security threat.
Yes.
I mean, they got their own agenda. Let's face it.
Yes,
But
let's face
down the
it.
road from this wind farm, there is a naval radar station.
Yes.
And they're claiming that the wind turbines interfere with the radar.
They, by the way, not being the naval station, but being the politicians.
Well, the Pentagon said the wind farm and the radar station can operate without detriment to either. So
There you
they're
go.
just blowing smoke.
They are blowing smoke, and they're blowing smoke in favor of the fossil fuels industry. How about that? Isn't
And
that
by the way, a little
surprising?
side thing here. This electricity that's being generated from this farm,
Yes,
Amazon's buying it all.
there you go.
Amazing, huh?
Isn't it amazing? Okay, Our next item is from CNN.
Veterans unite for second deployment against Dakota Access Pipeline.
The troops are mobilizing for a second deployment. The Veterans Stand Group is once again raising funds for protesters who oppose construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. The funds will go towards supplies for the supplies for the North Dakota protest camp and transportation of veterans to and from Standing Rock Indian Reservation into operations. And I hate to say it, but I don't think they've got much chance of stopping that.
Not at this point.
Not at this
Not
point.
at this point.
But it is a rallying point for them. It is a place where people can get together and a thing that people can talk about. And so that means, even though I think that the pipeline is going to go in, that doesn't mean that they should not protest.
Well, you know, there's a little side element here that we don't hear much of.
Yeah.
Apparently, the pipeline was supposed to go under the river.
Yes.
At Bismarck.
Yes.
And Bismarck is 93% white.
Yes.
And they got some political power. So they complained, and the next thing you know, it's on this Indian reservation.
There you go. Why not just shaft the Indians? That's what they're there for.
They don't have the political power that the people in Bismarck had.
You know, the American Indians have been treated in a manner that is absolutely appalling ever since the first white people came to this continent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the federal government under Donald Trump, I think, is not going to do any better. Anyway, our next item comes from Clean Technica.
Oh, this is an interesting one. There's a picture coming up here.
Yep. The picture is not this one, though.
No, okay, it's the next one.
It's
the U.S. installed 8.2 gigawatts of new wind energy in 2016, finishes with the second strongest quarter ever.
New figures from the American Wind Energy Association show that the United States installed a total of 8,203 megawatts in 2016. As a result, wind energy has now surpassed hydropower to become the largest source of renewable electricity capacity in the United States and the fourth largest source overall, with a total of 82,183 megawatts.
So it's the largest renewable, but it's the fourth source that we're relying on.
Right.
Right after fossil fuels.
Natural gas and coal.
Yeah.
And coal is going down. Natural gas is still increasing, but coal is going down, and it's going, as we just saw, it's going down hard. Interestingly, today, and this will be in next week's report, the numbers came out for solar installed. Solar was the number one installed new. Wind was number two, and solar had more installations than natural gas, and solar had more installations than everything else put together except for wind.
I can believe it. Yeah, I can believe it.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean,
It does.
The prices are getting so low,
Yeah.
you can't afford not to do it.
That's absolutely right. So we're up to Saturday, February 11th, and we have a picture here. This is a cute little picture. This is our next item is from Stock News USA.
A revolutionary battery promises a 10-year life on a single charge. That's a little bit deceptive.
That's a little deceptive. They're not talking about electric charge, they're talking about chemical charge.
Exactly.
A new
They'll
type,
fill these things, these reservoirs once every 10 years.
Yeah.
But they're still going to have to charge them to use them.
On a daily basis, on a regular, yes. A new type of battery has the ability to revolutionize all smart devices that rely on storage electricity. Harvard professors at the engineering facility created a flow battery that stores the energy in primary molecules dissolved in water. That primary molecules thing is something that's easy for people to miss, but it's important. With a neutral pH, the new battery has a long life, losing 1% of its capacity after 1,000 charge cycles. And you know, one of the things that's interesting about this is they're talking about these flow batteries being made small.
Small or big. Depends on your needs.
Well, the other flow batteries
they can be as huge as you want. The reservoirs can be lakes.
Yes, but the thing is, they're talking about small devices having flow batteries.
Yeah.
That's something I had not seen before.
Well, no, but you could have predicted it.
Yes.
You know,
you could have
it's
predicted
just
it.
logical.
Yes, it's logical.
And one
you
of
know,
the biggest markets is cars.
Yeah.
They're really looking hard at a flow
at
battery
that.
for cars.
Well, I talked to people out at Vision, which is a battery manufacturer in California, VIZN, and they told me, yeah, we're building big batteries. And I said, well, what about small batteries? You know, like cars or houses, whatever. And they said, yeah, we could do that, but we've got to put our attention on the most important market for now. And they're building a battery. You know, they were building at the time. They may still be building a battery for one of the cities in Canada, which is going to be 2 megawatts. And I think 8 megawatt hours. That's a fair amount of battery storage.
It's a decent sized battery.
It is, yeah.
Bring it into one of my car for sure.
Well, could you fit it in Brattleboro? Yes, you could actually. But anyway, so our next item.
Well, there's a quick
Oh,
takeaway
sorry,
about
I
this.
keep jumping ahead. Sorry.
In addition to everything we've talked about, this liquid is non-toxic,
Yes,
non-corrosive, non-toxic. It's
Yes.
basically water
yes. With
goodies installed. in it.
goodies installed in it, right?
Yeah.
So we're up to a piece from etenergyworld.com.
Okay. Europe to invest in renewables despite Donald Trump and the electricity lobby.
I think these words, despite Donald Trump, are going to come up more and more and more until he disappears. Encouraged by Chinese and EU commitments to low-carbon energy, European utilities will not reduce their renewable energy investments if U.S. President Donald Trump lowers the U.S. climate goals. Electricity lobby Eurelectric said. Trump said during the campaign that he would pull the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement of 2015. And
It's probably not going to make much difference.
not only will it not make much difference, I think it
Gonna
would
put China
actually be
in the catbird seat.
very strongly counterproductive from Trump's point of view.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it would put American. He's already handing over American leadership in the world to China.
To China.
And
This is just going to accelerate it.
yeah, that would just accelerate it, and it would not change things in favor of the fossil fuels industry in the United States because they're basically doomed at this point. I think. You know, I don't see how they can
Well,
recover.
I've said it on this show before, you know, in a not too distant future, people are going to look back and say, you know, they actually used to pay for fuel in those days.
Yes, right. No doubt about it, as far as I'm concerned. You know, people who sell fossil fuels, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
they have to buy their fossil fuels. In Vermont, resale of fossil fuels, all this stuff comes from outside because
Yeah,
there's no fossil
we
fuels.
don't generate our own.
We could make our own fossil fuels out of carbon dioxide in Lake Champlain and make it cheaper than buying it from outside. That, according to the United States Navy.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what the Navy's doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what the Navy's doing. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica.
The U.S. EPA has begun removing Obama-era information.
Oh, let's burn the books. The EPA website has begun to transform under Donald Trump's leadership. Researchers found that federal climate plans, tribal assistance programs, and references to international cooperation have been stricken. A mention of carbon pollution as a cause of climate change has been removed, and adaptation has been identified. In other words, okay, let's admit that climate change is happening, but we can deal with that.
Anything that has to do with Obama,
They want to get
zip,
rid of.
it's gone.
In ancient Egypt,
Yeah.
they had people going around eradicating the names that had been carved into stone monuments. And that's, I think, what Donald Trump wants to do.
A good analogy, yeah.
Yeah. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on, ye mighty in despair.
And after his second term, we're going to see statues to Trump all over America.
Donald Trump will not have a second term, I don't think.
If
Mike
he
Pence-
does, we got to watch out.
Mike Pence might have a second term. I think the Republicans are probably going to lose control of the Congress in
Well, if this
2 years
continues
down.
as it has for the first month,
Well, he isn't even in control of the
eliminate
White
the word
House.
probably.
Yeah.
There may not be another Republican administration for the rest of the century.
Yeah,
They're
ever.
going to leave such a bad taste in their mouth. It could kill the Republican Party.
It could kill the Republican Party. Despite people like Susan Collins, is that her
Yeah,
name?
from Maine.
In Maine,
Yeah.
who is not going to
She's got some
vote
sense.
for Pruitt.
Yeah.
And, there are various Republican governors who are saying we need to develop renewable power. The governor of Massachusetts is saying climate change is a problem.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump and his supporters don't believe it. Okay, we are up to Sunday, February
Sunday the
12th.
Scott Pruitt's misleading Senate testimony. Will alternative science replace real science at the EPA?
Wow, Energy
This kind of
Collective.
goes along with what we were just talking about.
Yep. Scott Pruitt, President Trump's pick to head the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, is misrepresenting the scientific data, clearly showing that the Earth's atmosphere is warming. He said he believes that global warming is in a hiatus. Okay, why is it in a hiatus? 1997 set a record. 1998 blew that record away. Now, you can't set a new record every year with most things, and climate change happens to be
So
one.
after about 5 years in a row setting records, we had 1 year that didn't, and that's
Well,
the hiatus.
What happened was 1998 was set a record, but that was not passed until 2005. So 7 years it took to get
That's
to
the hiatus.
That's the hiatus. And then a new record was set in 2005. That was broken in 2010. That was broken in 2014. That was broken in 2015. That was broken big time in 2016. And now Donald Trump and his cronies want NASA to stop telling anybody.
Ah, okay. It can still happen, but you can't mention it.
Yeah, well,
The article, by the way, goes to great lengths to debunk Pruitt.
yeah, well,
I mean, it's just chapter and verse. He said this, da, da, da. He said this.
yeah. And one of the
I
things
don't know what world he's living in.
I don't know. One of the things that really bugs me, and it's the reason I used to be a Republican,
Yeah, you told me that.
and I got really antsy under George W. Bush, and then the USDA issued its hardiness zone map in 2005, which the law said it had to, and it got withdrawn in 2 weeks because you could look at the 2005 map and look at the 1990 map. They are issued every 15 years. And you could look at them and say, whoa, half the United States is in a different hardiness zone.
Yeah.
That means the whole country's gone up 5 degrees.
That means my vegetable garden, I got to change everything in it.
Yeah, well, but what it really means that's important to people is the apple trees are moving north, and we're going
Yep.
to start planting pawpaws.
Pawpaws, yeah.
And peaches.
Yeah.
Our maple sugar industry has
Moving
been
to Canada.
It's already moved to Canada, but it also means Lyme disease because deer ticks
Yeah.
move in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and it means that we will be getting avian 10% of the loons at I forget the name of the lake. It's on the Maine-New Hampshire border. 10%, 15% of the loons had avian malaria. Mm-hmm. We've got diseases moving in that we don't want.
That we've never had before.
Yeah. Okay. Although I will say, Japanese knotweed,
Yeah.
don't pick it next to a road because it's going to be contaminated with road junk. But if you get that when it's small,
Yeah,
it's
it's good-
delicious.
good
Good
eating.
eating. Yeah. Okay, we're up to, we're not up to, we're up
Got a
to
nice picture
a
coming up
picture.
here.
There it is.
There we go. Let me get the picture.
And thanks to Tad Montgomery for bringing this to my attention. This is from the Washington Post.
It's about 50 degrees warmer than normal near the North Pole. Yet again.
Again, second time. Friday's temperature very near the North Pole is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than normal, according to a temperature analysis by NOAA, which, the Republican Party and Donald Trump wants to silence. The warmth is being funneled toward the North Pole as winds converged between a monster storm, the North Atlantic, and a giant area of high pressure over northern Europe. And of course, the problem that we've got is not that this is happening once. The problem is that this is happening over and over again.
Well, look at that map. Now,
Yeah.
it's what we're looking at there is not the temperature It's the change in temperature.
It's the difference
The
between
difference
what's
in
normal.
Yep.
So-
and look at all of that red at the top.
Yep.
Now, what that means to me is a lot of ice is melting.
A lot of ice is melting.
This article didn't even mention that.
Ice in February and in January was melting just a tiny little bit, but melting at the North Pole in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, and it's melting on Greenland where it's over land.
Yeah.
And it's leaking into the water and it's raising the level.
water. Yeah, okay. That's smart. Okay, thank you. Let's shut NOAA down so nobody will know it's happening. Well, they will know it's happening. I'm sorry. Okay, now we've got an interesting picture here.
Let's get the next picture.
Yep, Charleston Post Courier sent us this.
Okay, financial
Express.
woes jolt contractor at South Carolina nuclear plant.
That picture, by the way, that crane, just to give you an idea, that thing that's dangling from the crane that looks like it's a, I don't know what it looks like, but it's just
That's a steam generator.
That's a steam generator.
Huge thing.
If you laid that on its side on the ground and cut the top and bottom off, you would be able to drive a tractor trailer carrying an oversized load through that. It's
Good
20 feet,
analogy.
20 feet across and it's 80 some odd feet long.
I'm trying to look at something in that picture, like a car or a person, you can see as a reference, and there isn't
It's
one.
hard to get a reference, but
That
that
crane is huge.
that crane is unbelievable. It's so big. It's 750. The
Tons.
steam generator that's being lowered there is 750 tons. Recently, one of the largest construction cranes on the planet gently hoisted a 750-ton steam generator into place for a new reactor at the V.C. Summer Nuclear Station. The heavy lifting isn't over. It could be just the beginning for the $14 billion project with unanswered questions about Westinghouse, the reactor designer.
Well, that's the story here, really.
Whoa.
Westinghouse, Toshiba is in trouble because of Westinghouse.
Yep.
Westinghouse is in trouble because they took a bunch of contracts that they can't fill.
Yeah.
And
And they're for the
it's
AP1000.
very convoluted here. I
Yeah.
read this article, and Westinghouse is owned by Toshiba, and Toshiba is owned by somebody else. And,
Yeah.
and there's a contractor in the middle, Stone
What
and Webster.
happens when Westinghouse owns Toshiba and Toshiba owns Westinghouse? What do you do then?
This is very convoluted.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell the players without a program. And
Right, but the bottom line here is there are 4 nuclear reactors under construction in the United States right now. All 4 of them are AP1000 design reactors from Westinghouse.
And all 4 of them behind schedule and over budget.
All of them behind schedule, all of them over budget. Westinghouse is responsible for this. Westinghouse is in trouble, and as Westinghouse is in trouble, Toshiba's in trouble, and at some point, they're saying Toshiba might have to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Or Westinghouse might have to declare bankruptcy, and
something- or they- all of them.
Toshiba is selling off assets in order to cover
And they're good
this.
assets.
Good assets,
They've
chip
got some
manufacturer.
good assets in the cell phone industry. They're making a lot of money on them. They got to sell them off.
They got to sell them to support
the
this.
money to support this.
And what happens? These reactors come online just at a point where the cost of generating solar plus battery goes below the cost of transmission, and nobody wants the power that they're making at these reactors.
That's not even mentioned in the article. I don't think.
They don't. The person who wrote the article probably didn't know. But who's going to pay for this in the end? It's going to be the American taxpayer and the American ratepayer.
Ratepayers, yep.
It's not going to be Donald Trump because he loves debt. And he said so. He's the king of debt.
We'll talk about this again because there's an article further on that's
Right.
talking about the same problem
Right.
in a different location.
Right. So we're up to February 13th, and we have a new slide. And
This is a nice one.
This is a pretty picture.
nice one.
Cooperative News gave us this.
Hawaiian Island Energy Co-op steps up a drive for renewables. That's a nice picture. Now, I looked at that. I thought, isn't that a nice little farm? And it's not. That's
is sort
a
of a
generating
farm.
station.
That's what?
It's a generating station.
It's a generating station. It's
And
a
I'm
hydro
looking at
plant.
that, and it's small.
Yes.
It's unobtrusive.
Yes.
We could have those things all over Vermont.
You could put 3 of these between here and Marlborough.
Absolutely.
You know, and
absolutely.
you can put them in such a way that it won't disturb the wildlife. The fish will be able to swim and by in both directions. You know, I mean, we can do this.
I was having fun looking at that picture because you can see exactly how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you a start.
I'm trying to read it.
There's a
Just going
picture
on.
there that shows what looks like a hand going like this. Oh, I put my cell phone. Looks like a hand going like this. That's the intake for the generating station.
Okay.
That's like white water.
Yeah.
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 Well,
There
let's
you go.
move along.
Okay. Well, I haven't read the blurb for this yet. As a Hawaii utility, co-op is aiming to produce 70% of its energy from renewables by 2030. The Kauai Island Utility Cooperation had already had a target of 50% by 2023, but it's already going to hit that goal in 2018, 5 years earlier than expected. So as recently as 2011, KIUC had a 92% dependency on fossil fuels for generation. That makes
So they're
a
making
difference.
real progress.
They're making progress, and people are saving money.
Well, in Hawaii, it makes sense because they have no local source of energy. So
Yeah.
they have to bring in all of the oil, whatever.
Until they realize that they can get it from hydro, from wind, from solar, from probably geothermal.
Well, they're realizing that now.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
So they didn't have to ship money off the islands.
yeah.
Man.
By the way, a little geography here.
Yeah.
Kauai is the 4th largest, geologically oldest, and northwesternmost island in the Hawaiian chain.
There you go.
It's the one sticking way out here
Way
somewhere.
out there. That's right. You don't want to swim from there to the next island. We are up to Foster's Daily Democrat,
We're coming back home.
which is back home. This is New Hampshire, which is only a walk from here.
Fight over renewable energy comes to New Hampshire. This is interesting.
Yeah, New Hampshire is behind its neighbors in use of renewable energy, and several groups are using this legislative session to make sure it stays behind its neighbors. Led by the Americans for Prosperity, which, by the way, is not
That's the
really
Koch
for
brothers.
prosperity, except for the Koch brothers' prosperity, as far as I'm concerned. Founded by billionaire Koch brothers. Wow, they say it right out loud. They support a bill that would pull the state out of the regional greenhouse gas initiative and cost it a lot of money, I think, in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got to move. Our next
Move
item
on.
is from the Japan Times.
Well, we're back to Toshiba again.
Back to Toshiba. Wow.
Toshiba's nuclear reactor mess winds back to a Louisiana swamp.
This is so crazy. If you want to understand why Toshiba Corporation is about to report a multi-billion-dollar write-down on its nuclear reactor business, the story begins and ends with an one-time pipe manufacturer in Louisiana. I was sitting there saying, pipe manufacturer? Well, what does Toshiba have to do with the tobacco industry? The Shaw Group, based in Baton Rouge, looms large in a story of business acquisitions and lack of experience.
This is an interesting article because, again, it gets into the nitty-gritty of who owns what and how
it's
and
absolutely
why.
crazy. You can
It
follow it
is-
if you
it's
try,
nuts.
but
It's nuts.
you got to try. By the way, they make pipes that carry fluids,
Yeah, bingo.
not tobacco pipes.
Well, that was what they were running into. There's a lot of pipes in a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
And these guys were making those pipes. You know,
And they
but
thought that they could do something
They're
they couldn't
real
do.
specialized pipes, stainless steel and special alloys, and they have to withstand radiation.
Yeah.
And these guys were just supplying regular garden variety pipes.
And they
You know,
didn't
they were
know.
all failing.
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
They didn't know. You know what it reminds me of is Dabney Taggart in the
Dabney Taggart.
Dabney Taggart in Atlas
Atlas
Shrugged.
Shrugged, yep.
There was a woman who, according to Ayn Rand, belonged in a railroad boardroom, probably as the president or the CEO. She was the head of operations. No, I'm sorry. She belonged in prison. Right at the beginning of the book, I got to this point and I said, I can't read this anymore. She told a railroad engineer, put this train on that track, do it now, when there was a signal saying don't do it. And she had a trainload of passengers she was putting on the track.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, you don't have to be an expert on railroad traffic to know that you don't do that. Those trains have a stopping distance that's well over a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, you could run that track around a curve and discover the
other guy's coming.
The other guy's coming, or the bridge is wiped out. And then what do? Well,
you say holy something or other, and we can't mention that word on TV.
That's right. And you know, Ayn Rand, she wasn't writing about competence. She was writing about arrogance, and that's what we've got in Washington now. Is a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, and they're arrogant about it. Well, here you've got it too.
Well, it's a long, complicated, and interesting story if you got the time.
If you got the time, look it up. That's February 13th.
It is worth reading.
It is worth reading. I agree.
The next one is a biggie right now.
Yep,
this is happening as we speak.
Tuesday, February 14th, and it's from the Atlantic. And I should show this picture.
Up.
The people, by the way, have been sent back home, but told be ready to move.
Oh, they already evacuated 200,000 people.
Yeah, but they sent everybody back. They said you can go back, but we've
be
got
ready
rain.
To go.
Be ready to move fast because we've got more rain coming. Okay, go ahead.
How did the Oroville Dam crisis get so dire?
On Sunday, authorities ordered 188,000 people near Oroville Dam in California to evacuate. Extreme weather, which scientists said was exacerbated by human-caused climate change, moved from drought to saturated in just months, filling a reservoir to levels that proved dangerous.
Well, there's a sub-story here.
Yep.
It's coming out that the dam operators were failing to perform routine maintenance.
Yeah.
They knew they had this problem.
Yeah.
Did nothing about it.
Yeah.
And when they needed it, all of a sudden it wasn't there for them.
Yeah.
And now they're pulling string. They don't know what to do.
But this also shows something else too. The article said the increased problem in terms of weather was 20%. So you say 20%. What's 20%? Why should 188,000 people evacuate because of 20%? Okay, think about a reservoir that is topped off, and then increase that amount of water by 20%, and think about what that means.
Well, you got to know why is this reservoir even there in the first place?
Yes.
It's part of the plan called the State Water Project that they put into effect 60-odd years ago,
Yep.
which permitted California to grow lettuce
Yep.
for Vermont
Yep.
all year round, among other things.
Yep.
And it was a wonderful project. It's 200 miles long with canals and reservoirs and stuff all over the place.
Wonderful project.
This particular reservoir's got 250 billion gallons of water in it.
That's more than I could fit in my fish tank.
I think so. Now, if that dam were to give way, you'd have 250 billion gallons of water running 200 miles to Los Angeles with nothing stopping.
You mean to Sacramento?
Huh?
Sacramento?
No, to Los Angeles.
Oh, it's Los Angeles.
It goes all the way to Los Angeles. It goes further south than Los Angeles.
Really?
Through the Imperial Valley. It's just,
I thought
California agriculture is dependent on its water project.
Wow.
And
Okay.
this is just the beginning of it.
Let's go to our next item, which is from Clean Technica.
Electric battery prices are falling faster than expected.
This is amazing. This is even faster than I was aware of when I was talking about that thing, you know, coming before 2022. That the prices of Seba, Tony Seba said 2022 the price of solar plus battery would fall below the price of transmission.
Yeah, you've talked
And
about that on this program.
I was saying, you know, it's falling much faster than he thought. Well, here again, it's falling faster than I was aware of. A report from Ward's Auto dated February 7th says EV battery prices are falling faster than expected and could be lower than the magic $100 per kilowatt hour mark by 2020. A U.S. Department of Energy goal for achieving a price of $125 by that year is turning out to be much too conservative. Some experts are expecting $80 per kilowatt hour. And what we're talking about here is not the cost of the electricity, it's the cost of the battery that stores the electricity.
Yeah.
And at $100 per kilowatt hour, we're talking about real big transition.
Well, what the article says that anything less than $125 is cheaper to have a battery than it is to buy fuel.
Yeah,
Okay?
Yeah.
And they're reaching that.
yeah.
So it's only a matter of time.
That's cheaper for the original car.
yeah.
And it's always
And
cheap.
it reflects itself in the price of the car.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's cheaper to get the electricity by far than it. And of course, an electric car, you don't have a carburetor. The muffler lasts forever.
There's zilch maintenance.
Yeah.
You got to change the
I
tires.
asked Jason Cooper, what kind of maintenance do you have to do? And he said, well, I have to change the windshield wipers.
Oh my God.
And we're talking about cars that are, people who
Nice
love
cars.
fast cars say, wow. Okay, let's go on. Satellite PR News.
I'm just trying to think, is there... No, I guess it's just basically saying that electric cars are coming, guys. Get
Yeah,
ready.
they're coming, and faster than anybody anticipated. Sorry.
SPP, and you're going to find out in a second who that is.
Yes.
Sets North American record for wind power.
Southwest Power Pool set a wind penetration record of 52.1%. Remember when they said that the whole grid would fry when above 5%? Turned out they were wrong. At 4:30 a.m. on February 12th, becoming the first regional transmission organization in North America to serve more than 50% of its load at a given time with wind electricity.
This is the operating load.
Yeah,
This is what people are using.
that's right. The milestone beats a previous North American RTO record of 49.2% that SPP set April 24th, 2016. And my bet is they're going to pass this record again this year because it's early in the year and
It's inevitable.
it's inevitable. Okay, should we go on?
Wednesday, February 15th.
That's right,
Hey,
and this is from
we're getting
Grist.
toward the end of this.
We are, aren't we? This is from
There's
Grist.
a picture here coming up.
Beautiful
Let me
picture.
get the picture.
The third largest polluter in the United States.
The West's coal giant is closing way ahead of schedule.
Way ahead of schedule. Coal power is no longer the best energy bargain. And on Monday, 4 private utility owners of the Navajo Generating Station, led by the Salt River Project, voted to shut down the plant at the end of 2019, some 25 years ahead of schedule. The closure will deeply hurt the employees, 90% of whom are Native American. And by the way, that plant gets its coal from a dedicated coal mine. And so the plant, the coal
And the
mine,
coal mine are tied in together.
yeah, and the railroad that runs between them are all going to close down.
They're all run. The people that work there are all these Indians from the reservations
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
The Hopis and the Navajos.
And we're going to have to,
Well, there's about 6 items that this article mentioned
yep,
that are significant. The closure will deeply wound local economies.
yes,
Certainly. The operating budgets of the Navajo and Hopi will take a severe beating.
Yes.
They're dependent on these guys.
That's right.
This is the only jobs available in that
Yep.
part of the world.
It's one of the problems with big plants. When
Yeah.
the big plant closes, everybody
Everything
suffers.
shuts down.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest polluters in the West. What did you say is the third
Third
largest?
largest polluter in the United States.
And this one you don't even think of. The plant and the mine consume huge amounts of water.
Yeah.
Okay? The electrical landscape is evolving, and we've talked about that a lot of times.
Yep.
And finally, economics, not the so-called war on coal or federal environmental regulations, is the primary factor shutting down the plant.
Right. And that's one of the things that we've talked about, the combination of solar plus storage.
Yeah.
And how this is the combination of solar plus storage is already having a huge impact because it's gone so low.
Yes.
The Lazard Associates does its LCOE, levelized cost of electricity, which is the cost of the electricity plus the subsidies.
That's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line. How much does it cost the society to make this stuff go? And in 2016, the average cost of solar plus storage was 9.4 cents per kilowatt hour. Which
Okay.
it might have been 9.2. I don't remember exactly, but I'm going to
That
say
was the cost of storage.
9.4. Solar plus
Yeah.
storage. And 9.4 cents per kilowatt hour is well below the bottom end of the price of electricity from a coal burning plant.
Okay.
So we're already in a point here where, sorry, if natural gas becomes more expensive, it's not going to help the coal industry.
Not at all.
Not at all. And if natural gas gets more expensive, it's going to help the renewables. It's not going to help the oil industry or the natural gas industry, which are basically the same, because raising the price is just going to mean they'll have fewer customers.
There's an interesting parallel here with what's going on right locally with the closure of Yankee.
Yes.
There's a huge infrastructure available, and they close a plant. Nothing's using it.
That's right.
You know, and in the article they're talking about, what are the Hopi and the Navajo going to do? They might put in solar and wind there and generate their own power.
Which would mean,
because the infrastructure's there.
Yeah, which would mean that they'd have a lot of construction jobs as long as that project keeps going.
Yes.
And then there are other possibilities.
There'll be some work after that,
After that, but not much. But after that, there are other things they can do with electricity that is intermittent in nature. And one of them, for example, is making hydrogen.
Yeah.
And
storing that hydrogen some way.
For the purpose of making chemicals.
Yeah.
You see, and it's getting to a point where there's enough carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and they have a big reservoir right there. There's enough carbon dioxide dissolved in that reservoir that they can pull carbon dioxide out. They can combine it with the hydrogen, which you can do if you have a lot of electricity, and this can be done whenever the wind's blowing, and that can produce basic chemicals that could be used for making plastics or fuel for cars or whatever.
So there's a lot of options.
They've got a lot of options.
In the long run that they make it out.
And if we decide that we're going to save coal, all that's going to do is wind up prolonging the agony and costing the taxpayers a lot of money.
Well, it's economics that's doing it.
That's right.
We're not going to save coal because we want to. We're going to save coal.
By the way, speaking of Vermont Yankee,
yeah,
you know this Hinsdale project we talked about last week, the 65 megawatt. That project, that's 65 megawatts. They're talking about the project costing $50 million.
That's going to provide a few jobs.
It's going to provide a few jobs, but it also means that the cost that they're anticipating paying for this is well below $1 a watt.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Well below, you know.
Yeah.
And then I sat there and I thought, okay, so if Hinsdale is producing 65 megawatts of solar power, if it's got 65 of solar capacity, because they're only going to do that when the sun's shining brightly, and you have transmission lines going to Vernon, where people are trying to figure out what to do with the transmission lines and where to get work. And then you've got Brattleboro, which very conveniently provides the third component of this thing I'm kind of envisioning.
The plot thickens.
You get cheap batteries and you put them in Vernon, and Brattleboro supplies the market for the power.
Well,
we could have a huge microgrid that would operate all those communities and sell its excess power elsewhere.
Are you listening, guys?
Yeah.
Hey, it's not a bad idea.
I'm so glad that you thought so, because I could have.
It's probably too big an idea for this show.
90% of my ideas get shot down. I mean, I tell Tori Weekers things, and she says, "That's the worst idea I ever heard." I come up with a record breaker every few days.
The world belongs to people who think outside the box.
And I don't even know where the box is, so I always think outside the box. Okay, we should get going.
We got
Clean Technica.
Expanded use of EVs, electric vehicles, in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania, California, and Oregon could yield multi-billions in savings and benefits.
Yeah. While the Trump administration appears to have affection for the fossil fuels industry, some states are moving in a different direction, especially on plug-in electric vehicles. From Massachusetts and New York to California, they are setting and achieving goals to put PEVs, plug-in electric vehicles, on the road, replacing those that burn fossil fuels. And you know, there was another interesting article. They have put in 1,000 charging stations in Kansas City.
Oh yeah?
Just the one
Just
city.
the one. That's one of the biggest problems against electric cars now. There's not enough charging stations.
Yeah.
And there will be.
Yeah. And
By the way, the reason why they mentioned all of these different states, they
Yep.
could have mentioned any state, and the statement would be true.
yep.
But all of these states have indicated that they're thinking about programs that will promote this.
Well, you know, there was
Some of them are in a compact already.
Yeah, there was a thing that came out from the American Lung Association. We talked about it a few weeks back, but they did a calculation of the external costs, external medical costs of the use of fossil fuels for
talked
transportation
about that.
alone, and they looked at Oregon, California, and then the states in this region. Those two.
The compact.
Yeah,
regional
Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine. 10 states. And
compact. Everything but New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I think, in the Northeast.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire's not in it? Okay.
It wasn't one of the ones that they looked at.
That's right, yeah.
But they concluded that the external costs, medical costs of fossil fuels in Vermont came to $330 million a year. That's a lot of money for a state that has 600 and some odd thousand people in it. It was $480 a person. That's a lot of money that's coming out of our pockets.
Yeah.
And we don't know that necessarily.
It's silent thievery.
It's silent thievery. It's a hidden tax.
Yeah.
You know, we might as well have a carbon tax and make it open and cover those hidden tax costs with a carbon tax.
We could probably spend a whole show talking about the carbon
We could do
tax.
that, and we should.
Maybe we should.
We should. Okay, our last item is from Atlanta Business Chronicle.
Okay, we're back to Toshiba.
We are back to Toshiba.
Plant Votel, and we've talked about that on this show.
Yep.
Losses threaten to bring down Toshiba. This is only one of many threats.
Cost overruns at Georgia's plant Votel, or Vogtle, if you want to pronounce it the way it looks like it should be pronounced.
Well, I looked it up. It's Votel.
It's Votel. Nuclear power plant are threatening a financial tsunami at Toshiba Corporation. The company projects a $6.3 billion write-down, postponed its earnings report because of allegations of impropriety, and announced that its chairman was resigning all on the same day. This is according to a report from the Wall Street Journal.
The thick Plotins.
The thick Plotins. That's right. That's right.
If you listen to this show, sell your Toshiba stock.
I think it might be too late. But, you know, we've been telling people for a long time it's not a good idea to be invested in fossil fuels right now. In fact, honestly, Tom, I wouldn't invest in renewables all that much either, because things are so fluid. And investing,
And we got opposing forces working on that.
We do, and investing is one thing, betting is another. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think
some people don't know that.
Some people don't know that. Yeah, when you get to be 70 years old, it might occur to you, but because you say, I don't need to bet anymore. I just, you know, so that's. Toshiba is in trouble because Westinghouse is in trouble. Westinghouse is in trouble because did they buy Chicago Bridge and Iron?
This is convoluted.
Yeah.
I think they did, but I think they bought Chicago Bridge and Iron because they owed money to Chicago Bridge and Iron or something like that.
Oh,
this
boy.
is very, very...
And Chicago Bridge and Iron merged with that pipe company in Louisiana.
Yes, and also with Stone and Webster, which was a venerable old engineering firm.
Chicago Bridge and Iron.
It was old. It was not what it used to be.
Yeah, Chicago Bridge and Iron was an old engineering firm.
Firm,
Also
yeah.
did really specialized castings and things of that nature. And they cast the nuclear reactors.
These are all venerable names.
Yeah.
Westinghouse, CB&I, Stone and Webster.
And so, but we've got a mess on our hands.
Because of some swamp in Louisiana.
Drain the swamp, Donald. Donald Trump has drained the swamp. You know, he said he was going to. He kept the promise. Now it's in the White House.
Oy
Okay.
vey.
Oy vey, that's right. I think it's time to say good night.
I think it is.
It is. Let's put that thing up.
Put that guy
Have
up.
a perfectly lovely week.
Okay, let's say goodbye first, and then we'll put that up.
Bye-bye.
I would hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.